Welcome. In this walkthrough, we are looking at how a system can appear correct until it is placed under pressure. The real task is to identify the invariant, surface the hidden assumption, and defend the result with evidence that still holds when timing or concurrency gets in the way. Now that we have framed the problem, the first mistake is trusting a single happy path run. A design can look fine once and still fail when ordering or exclusivity matters. So we start with the invariant first, then choose the mechanism that protects it.
So the issue is not that the code runs, but that it only runs correctly under ideal conditions?
Exactly. The evidence has to survive failure, not just success. That failure sets up the next design choice. Pressure exposes the hidden assumption points to an invariant, and the invariant demands evidence. If you can trace that chain clearly, you can defend the design instead of guessing about it.
Why is the chain so important? Can't we just test whether the feature works?
A working feature is not the same as a defensible claim under pressure. Deductive reasoning means you observe logs, timings, or traces and infer what must be happening inside the system. You are not guessing that it worked, you are proving what the evidence forces to be true.
Is that just debugging, or is it stronger than debugging?
It is stronger. Debugging looks for a fix. Deduction establishes a claim. A useful mental chain is logs to trace, trace to state, and state to claim. Start from the evidence you can capture, connect it to the internal transition, and then make a precise statement about what the system must have done.
So if the logs are vague, the claim gets weak even if the code is correct.
Right. Weak evidence makes the design hard to defend. Now move from evidence to execution. Mental modeling is about building the path before you stare at source code. Who acts first, what state changes, where timing can drift, and what happens if two actors overlap.
So the danger is assuming the method name tells me the real execution order.
Exactly. Names suggest intent. Pressure reveals behavior. Imagine two workers both reaching for the same cue and the same episode. If both can act on the same item without coordination, then the design is silently assuming away conflict.
So the hidden assumption is that only one worker will ever get there first.
Yes, and that assumption is exactly what pressure tends to break. So the next question is how to test the failure on purpose. Form a concrete theory, create the pressure that would expose it, repeat the run, and compare the traces.
Why not just wait for the bug to happen naturally?
Because repeatability is what turns a suspicion into evidence. The workflow is theory, pressure test, trace, revision. That loop matters because the first explanation is often incomplete. You test the theory, inspect the evidence, and revise the claim or the design based on what the system actually did.
So if the trace contradicts my theory, I change the theory first.
Yes, the trace outranks intuition. Now we can name the property that must stay true across valid runs. In a stateful concurrent system, that is often one owner at a time, or no stale transition after a newer one. The tool comes later, the property comes first.
So what invariant am I protecting if I choose a lock or a queue?
That depends on the system, but the invariant must be explicit before the mechanism makes sense. A state machine is a practical way to protect that invariant. An episode starts in draft, then a worker claims it into processing, and later it may move to ready, published, or failed. The transition itself becomes meaningful because invalid moves can be rejected instead of silently accepted.
Isn't that just adding more states?
It is adding explicit control so the design can reject ambiguity. This is the uncomfortable failure case. Two workers both read the same episode as draft before either one writes back, and now they both believe they own the same work. The happy path hides that race because only one worker happens to act.
Why did it pass the sequential test if the design was wrong?
Because the test avoided the interleaving that exposes the violated invariant. When this breaks, the symptoms are concrete: duplicate work, stale state, misleading logs, or stuck progress. The evidence you need is worker IDs, episode IDs, previous and new state, timestamps, and repeatable output.
What would a reviewer need to reconstruct a failure?
Enough structure to show who acted, on what entity, in what order, and with what result. A useful pressure test is to put two workers against the same episode and insert a delay between the check and the claim. That creates the race on purpose and answers the real question: is check and update one atomic ownership step or two separate steps?
If it's two steps, is the bug basically guaranteed under enough load?
Not guaranteed, but much more likely and much harder to defend. The protected property here is that only one worker can own the transition at a time. You can protect that with an atomic check and set, a versioned write, synchronized transition logic, or a single owner queue.
Isn't adding a lock enough?
Sometimes, but only if the lock actually matches the invariant and the workflow boundaries. The correction path is simple to describe, but hard to fake. Make the invariant explicit, use an atomic check or versioned write, and log the critical transition so the losing path is visible in review. That extra control is what makes the design trustworthy.
What trade-off does this fix introduce?
Usually less parallelism around the protected entity, plus more explicit control logic. No correction is free, and that is exactly what you should be able to defend. Baselines are easy, but hide timing assumptions. Guarded transitions protect the core invariant. Retry-safe designs handle duplicates and partial failure. Observability-first designs produce strong evidence, but they cost more instrumentation work.
So which one is best?
The best one is the simplest mechanism that protects the right property under your actual failure mode. A strong claim moves from claim to logline to trace to review. That is the evidence chain you want in an integrity packet or design defense. If you can point to the operation ID, entity ID, state transition, and repeated result, the reviewer can check the story instead of taking it on faith.
So the evidence is not just proof that something happened, but proof that the invariant survived?
Exactly. The evidence has to support the claim you are making. This is where the lecture connects directly to the assignment. For A1, identify the invariant in your own project, show a pressure test that can break the naive version, capture before and after evidence if you change the design, and defend the trade-off in your integrity packet.
What if my project doesn't seem concurrent enough to fail that way?
Then look for retries, ordering, shared state, or any workflow boundary that can still create pressure. For your project, pick the domain object or workflow that matters most, then create a failure test that puts it under pressure. From that run, collect logs, traces, outputs, and a clear connection to the integrity packet.
What evidence would be enough to convince a reviewer?
A repeatable test, structured output, and a direct explanation of why the result supports your design choice. These are the mistakes to avoid. A happy path alone gives false confidence. A tool without an invariant solves the wrong problem. Vague evidence cannot support a claim, and a fix without a baseline comparison leaves you unable to measure improvement.
So the anti-pattern is really trusting convenience instead of pressure.
Yes, convenience is not a validation strategy. All of these anti-patterns funnel into the same outcome: false confidence. If you only test the easy case, talk about the mechanism before the property, keep the logs too weak, or never compare before and after, then the design may feel correct without being correct.
So the fix is to make the pressure explicit and then prove the result?
Exactly. That is the professional habit. Let's pause and think like reviewers. Which invariant would break first in your own system, and which control would you actually defend if someone challenged your design?